I'm live, and according to this, I'm early. Go figure. Okay, so I guess we'll just give people some time to appear. There's just me. Hello. There, that's better. Just put that out there. Hello. And I have two people, but I don't know who they are because they're not showing up on my feed. Okay. Oh, this is what do you call it? Oh, yes, we're gonna call this, After Breakfast with my brother, aren't we? I forgot what the name was. And I am your host, Ben Woestenburg, coming to you live from Vancouver, out here on the left coast. And looking out the old weather window, ooh, nice and bright out there. Oh, I know it's white. I know it is. It's 23, 24 at 10 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, 23, 24, something like that. We're working our way apparently into a heat wave. It's only Tuesday. Apparently tomorrow it's supposed to be up to 28, 29. And for my American friends, that's Celsius, not Fahrenheit. Yeah, that means it's like 80s. Late, yeah. Not. I was gonna say late 80s. That's kind of like years, isn't it? Wait, I have to print up. No, I'm not. Am I going to print it up? I can read it. I think that might be better. If I print it up, you'll be looking at the top of my head, and that's never any good, is it? Except for the fact that, ooh, I'm not losing my hair. Am I? No. That's the problem. If I were losing my hair, I wouldn't have to spend so much on haircuts. Oh, well, I guess I could always shave it off. No. So today is World Cup 2. FIFA or whatever, yeah. We've been watching the fiasco that is FIFA, and, we were talking about it earlier, that being we, being my brother and I. We were talking about it, saying, how corrupt it is. That, gee, looks like Argentina's gonna win. Oh, wow, they do everything they can to win. That being like the referees make them win or help them to win or whatever. Yeah. So, today I am going to read to you from Beginner's Guide to Time Travel. And hopefully everything will be fine. And because we got it wasn't the computer. It was the, what do you call it? The fiber optic feed. Apparently the router had a loose wire. We're kind of wondering how that's possible when we don't touch the router, that a wire was broken. And that was causing everything to freeze up on me, and I kept getting that little swirly thing and all that stuff. And I couldn't do my live feeds without it stopping on me. I couldn't watch anything without it stopping. I couldn't do my what do you call it? Poetry corner, my poet's corner. I couldn't do that because it wasn't allowing me to even film and make videos because it kept freezing up. So I had to cancel that twice. It's like, well, that's the way it is. So, well, I got two people to read to. I love it. So much easier that way, isn't it? Let me see what else is new. Oh, I have a book. I have the Shield of Locksley in an ebook, and it's selling for $7.95 American, I believe, which is $11.34 Canadian, of course. I don't fix these prices. That was fixed by Amazon itself, so I didn't have a choice. But I like that price because that's the one I would have picked, was the $7.99. And it is apparently 867 pages long. So if you like to have a good long summer read, that would be the one. The Shield of Locksley, which is takes place during the fall of Camelot. It just a little before everything falls apart. It's supposed to be 3 books, but if I don't get any interest, what's the point in writing the other 2, right? But I might eventually have to, because why not? Why wouldn't I, right? So yeah, so that is available on Amazon, and I have to do more marketing and all of that stuff like that. So I'm learning to market by using AI to teach me how to market, which is, as far as I can see, a good use of AI because, like, it's teaching me that I need to do this and that I need to do that, and I have to put out little blurbs and I have to put this out and I have to do that. And, it's going to show me how to make my books and help me with the cover to because I was like, I have a picture for my cover, but I couldn't get it on there because I didn't know how to do it. So it's going to show me how to do all of that, and I'm prepared. I'm waiting, but I have to go through the book one more time and fix it up and do what I can. And I want to make it into a paperback, and I want to make it into a hardcover. And as well as that, I also have my first volume of the trilogy series, The Bridges of Rome. And that I want to make into a steady series. And although I wanted to make 2 books a year, I might be stuck making 1 a year. I don't know. We'll have to see how that works, which is okay by me. I was like, I was actually thinking of trying to get it would published legitimately, which means like because I'll tell you why. I kept saying that if I could get enough people to subscribe and go paid and all of that stuff like that, and I need 150 people to go paid subscription, and I'm stuck at 28, and now I lost one, so now I'm down to 27. So it's not going up; it's going down, and so it's like screw that. I'm just going to see if I can publish these things legit, and I mean, I've been waiting. It's like 4 years I've been here, and I've only got 28 people or 27 people now. And I think 3 or 4 of those are what do you call complimentary because they're unable to pay for whatever reasons. I don't ask them; they just ask me, and I just give it to them because the way I am. Yeah. So we just play it by ear. And what else is new? By the way, maybe if I move the microphone, can you hear me now? Oops. Okay. So, yeah. And this and that and this and that. So it's okay. It's time to read because I've been trying to fill you in on everything. I got my book. I got my other book. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like yada, yada, yada. And that's it. Let's get into the story. Okay, so this is part 5. This is chapter 21, where we're going into Helen. Helen, Helen's head. I mean, you know what I mean. Helen is the cop that was in the beginning of the story, the one that picked Ricky up and all of that stuff like that. And then they got swept up into the future, so to speak. So let's take a look and see what this is going through Helen's mind now. What the hell, Ricky? I said, looking around slowly. This wasn't the storage locker we were just in. Somehow, we were outside in the foothills of some mountain range I'd never seen before. The sky looked gray and overcast, the mountains snow-capped and beautiful, but they didn't look like anything I'd ever seen in a book before. There was a wide river with a raft in it that looked like it had been handmade, stitched together with what looked like catgut and string. On the riverbank were two round, well, they looked like more like yurts, but they were tents, set well away from the river with a fire blazing between them and three people looking at us. One of them was holding a longbow. The bowstring was pulled back all the way, and the arrow tip looked like a pointed barb that would rip through whoever the man was targeting. He had a long sword and a dagger about the size of my forearm in a scabbard on his left, hanging from a wide belt. There was a small crossbow hanging from the right side of the belt. A large, hand-stitched quiver hanging from a strap was slung over his shoulder, and 4 arrows stuck into the ground in front of him. I drew my pistol slowly and bent into a crouch. I could see the muscles in his arm shiver, but he never took his eyes off me. I had to congratulate myself for having put myself under his watchful gaze so recklessly. "No, wait," the woman beside me said, stepping forward. She looked around as if she'd lost something, and then looked at Jimmy. "Where's Whit?" "I guess he didn't make it," Jimmy said. "What do you mean he didn't make it? He was wearing 2 bracelets. I looked at her briefly before looking over at Ricky, who nodded slowly, trying to smile, but was obviously nervous. I lowered my weapon and took a step back. The man across from me gave a quick nod and led off the tension. He was willing to listen. "Where are we?" I said, and turned to look at Ricky. "I remember shooting those 2 men in the locker just after they came through. A hole in the wall? And then another hole? And you screaming at me to put the bracelet on." I looked down to see that it was still on my wrist. "What the hell's going on?" After that, I don't remember much of anything that didn't feel like it was part of a dream. I don't remember going through the hole in the air and stepping through the wall. Maybe that was a good thing. It was all short-lived, and thank God, because it was a nightmare of death and unspeakable horrors after that. Certainly not something I wanted to share with anyone, especially the woman standing across from me. It had been too real, held in a cage with several others and then taken to what looked like an old rusted shipping container. There were women in there as well, waiting. They were all young, beautiful, and scared. We could see the systematic rapes happening right in front of us. And then it was my turn. I remember the rape. It was ugly and it was painful and it was more real than any dream I'd ever had before. It wasn't anything I wanted to remember, that's for sure, and that's the part of it that didn't make any sense. Because the part of me that was being raped was removed from me. It was almost as if I was in someone else's body and that what was being done to me was being done to her, but there was pain, and my soul broke. I fought as hard as I could every time they came for me. They beat me and raped me anyways. "Somebody tell me what the fuck is going on," I said. The man looked at me startled, and I turned to look at Jimmy and Jen. They were the ones this was all about. I remembered that much. Ricky remembered whatever happened before because he was looking at everything, like he was making an inventory. I was starting to lose it. I looked at the man holding the longbow. "Do you understand me?" I asked. He nodded. He looked as confused as I felt. "Then put that goddamn thing down and tell me where the hell I am, because I sure as hell wasn't here when I started my shift tonight." "Whit," Ricky said to the man in front of us. "Put the bow down." "How does he know your name?" the woman beside him asked. And that was the first time I saw her. How I must have looked when I was part of her. But no, this was different. She looked wild, almost feral, with gray eyes and raven hair. But she was obviously pregnant. Not the big, bulky sort of pregnant, but a harder one where food and diet are dependent on a bow and arrow touting wild man. Whit shook his head, looking at the woman. "I don't know." He lowered the bow but kept the arrow notched. It was for just in case, I suppose, and decided I liked him. "I'll explain, but right now we've got bigger problems," Ricky said. "What sort of problems?" the man said, aware. His hand was pulling back the bowstring. It was almost like an instinct. There was a small tubular drone that floated in from behind him. I saw it, and Whit spun, letting the arrow go. The arrow sliced through the top part of the machine where there appeared to be a seam. It had to be something he knew about because the drone fell to the ground with a thud. That, Ricky said. It certainly can't be good, the third man standing with them said. There was the sound of a distant scream coming from the valley below, and the man started running to the cliffside to see what was happening. Ricky screamed at him, "No, don't!" The man stopped as Whit turned and drove 5 more arrows into the ground in front of him. The woman reached back and picked up 3 other arrows. "If you go there, you'll be killed," Ricky said steadily. "I have to. They'll be coming up from behind us in about 10 seconds, Ricky said, and I found myself drawing my gun again, throwing a bead down on a small path Ricky was pointing at. "Who's coming?" I asked. "Just shoot everyone you see," he said, looking down at me. Jimmy and the woman beside me pulled out their weapons as well, and I had to look twice when I realized that whatever they were holding, they weren't regulation handguns. "What's that do?" I asked. "Light amplification. Deadly," Jen said. "A laser?" No sooner did I say it than the first man showed up. He had a spear and meant to throw it. I fired. The spear fell to the ground with the man, and Ricky looked at the man. "That was the spear that would have killed you." "I suppose I should say thank you then," the man said, running to the cliffside and looking at the valley below. "Slavers!" he screamed and ran for his weapons. Another dozen men came at us. I watched Whit take down 4 of them in the time it took me to shoot 3 more. The woman drew her knife and threw it. It struck one of the attackers in the throat. Whit drew his sword and ran at the remaining 4. He slipped the blade into the first man as he slid to his knees, sliding on the grass and under the axe the second man was swinging. No sooner had he done that, and he was up, slashing at the back of the man's knees. He spun and drove the blade into the third man's side and then slashed at the second man again, half decapitating him. I shot the last man. "What the fuck is going on?" I screamed at Ricky, watching the man wipe his blade on the furs he was wearing. He quietly sheathed the weapon and, retrieving the knife from the dead man's throat, returned it to the woman. Then he pulled out all of the arrows he'd used from the dead bodies lying around us. He was quick to strip the bodies of whatever weapons they had, filling the quiver he carried and taking a second quiver from one of the dead bodies. That's when I noticed he was taking crossbow bolts from some of the bodies, filling the wrist quiver he had strapped to his right forearm. It only held 3 bolts. He threw the rest into the raft. I looked at Jimmy for a moment, and it left me with more questions than answers. Somehow, Jimmy looked totally different from his brother. His eyes may have been deep set and brooding if you caught him in the shadow, but they were brown and Ricky's were blue. I told myself they both moved the same way, and all I could say was that to that was almost. Jimmy was taller and heavier, and his hair was darker, and maybe there was a little gray in it. And I wondered if maybe I'd missed something, and that they were stepbrothers. "That's the way it's supposed to go the first time," Jimmy said to Jen. "What do you mean, the first time?" I said. "Who are you people?" Whit asked. "How do you know his name?" the woman beside him asked. "How do you know where we were going to be attacked?" the third man asked. "You're Whit," Ricky said to the man with the bow, "and you're his Kiza, Jaylene." "His what?" "Kiza," he said. "She's his Kiza, his wife." "What the hell kind of language is that?" I said. "Are we still on the same planet? Have you taken me somewhere else?" I asked Ricky. "This is still Earth," Jen said. "And just how the hell do you fit into all of this?" I asked. "I don't remember seeing you at any time during my shift, but I sure as hell know who you are, or were," I said, almost as if I was cautioning myself. "And now you're here? You're wanted back from wherever I came from for questioning concerning the deaths of your husband and 3 children. Now you tell me how you're here and where you come from." "I'm Jen. I brought Jimmy and his dad through," she said. She said her name like it was a question she was asking me. I guess she had to assume that I might have heard something about her. She'd soon find out just how much I knew. "Jen, you mean the sister-in-law?" I looked at Ricky. I thought you said your sister-in-law was, well, fat. This woman's definitely not fat. I looked her up and down. She was enviously fit, I thought. I liked the short red hair so obviously dyed and cut so close to her scalp it looked like a haze in the sunlight. We don't have time for this, Jen said. Says who? Because those people, she pointed over the cliff, they're slavers. They're going to wonder why their drone didn't respond. And then they're going to wonder what happened to the squad they sent up here to take us out. How'd they know we were even here? Wit said. That drone's been following you for days, Jen said. And you, the woman asked. Why are you here? How are you here? We're just passing through, Jen said. Passing through. Passing through what? The third man asked. Because you just appeared out of thin air. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, I said. That's Jarrell, Ricky said. He's her brother. How the hell does he know that? Oh, that's something he remembers because he was in one of their heads. You see? That's what I mean. How do you know who we are? Where did you come from that you can say you're just passing through? But first tell me, how did you get here? Because like Jar said, you just showed up out of thin air, no less. One moment we're running around playing the game, and then you show up just like that. A spark, a flash of light, and then that hole in the air, and you fell through it. I'd like to know where here is, I said. I mean, I know where I was. We'll explain what's happening later. Right now, we've got to get away from here, and fast, Jimmy said. How long to break camp? These things take time, Wit said. I ran to the small rise. Our attackers had come up and looked down the length of the hill. There was a large group of men on their way up. They were dressed in a mix of hides and furs. Some had painted faces, others had globs of clay in their hair, which they'd formed into long red spikes. It would be minutes at most until they reached the camp. Ricky came up behind me and looked down the hill. That can't be good, he said. I think we might have a problem, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. They all came to the rise to look for themselves while I busied myself with reloading my weapon. Jesus, Jimmy said. He turned and looked at the three strangers. You've got minutes, at best. Less even. The man Wick was quick to move. He grabbed whatever he could, cut the lines for the tents, and rolled them both up as quick as he could. I could hear the younger one, Jarrell, asking Wit what he thought Jimmy meant by minutes. Think of it as a thunderclap away, Wit said, throwing every weapon he could get his hands on into the raft. He loaded one of the tents on one pontoon and the other tent across from it. He rolled it quick, once, twice, and then wrapped it over the pontoon and pulled up 3 lengths of rope. He lashed one rope and then the other into place, securing it in the middle with the third. In the meantime, his wife pushed every pot, pan, and dish they had into one of the 2 hand-sewn packs. She was laboring with the other pack and the bedding. She was running awkwardly, tossing the packs into the raft and helping her brother drag the big steering oar across the campsite. She climbed into the raft as her brother jumped into the water, and together they slid the huge oar into place. Untie it, Whit was screaming out to Jimmy and the woman. Here they come, I said, and raising my handgun, settled myself into a deep crouch. I felt like a sheriff in some old-time Western movie, ready to face the bad guys. I took careful aim and dropped the first man with a deafening roar. I dropped 4 more in quick succession, and the rest of them stopped briefly. That's when Wit ran up, fell to one knee, and drove 3 more arrows into the ground. He drew his bow back and took down 4 men before they had a chance to scatter. Let's go, he said, grabbing me by the arm. He pushed me in front of him, and I plunged into the icy water. I lost my footing and screamed out as the shock of cold water. I was soon over my head as the bottom gave way. There was a tug on my hair, and I screamed out again, reaching up and grabbing at whatever hand was tugging on me. Soon there were more hands pulling me up, and I could feel myself being lifted out of the water, both half lifted and half dropped into the bottom of the raft. I sat in the bottom of the raft, shivering. The woman, Jaylene, took her fur-lined jacket off and gave it to me. She stood in front of me with her tits out. I was staring at her obvious pregnancy. She told me to take my wet shirt off and looked at me strangely when she saw me sitting with just my bra. "What's that?" she asked, pointing at my bra. She reached forward and lifted my breast, looking underneath. "What's this for?" "Support," I said, slapping at her hands. "Support? Support for what?" She laughed. "So your tits don't fall down to your knees by the time you're 30. Or in your case, after you squat out a couple more kids." 30, she said. "Your age," I asked her, and she shook her head. "Age? I don't understand half of what you say, and even less of the other half. Nothing you say makes sense. Time, age, tits? What are tits? And 30? What's 30? She said. "Time is the span it takes the sun to go from there to over there," Jimmy said, pointing up at the mountains where the sun was cresting a spiked peak that cast a long shadow back on itself. "Once upon a time, the day was divided into little pieces. Let's say 60 heartbeats is a good place to start from. So you count your heartbeat, 60 of them. Those 60 heartbeats, we're going to take those and add them up. We're going to call that span of time, that 60 heartbeats, we're going to call that a minute. 60 heartbeats is equal to a minute. Take that 60 of those minutes, and then you have something different. We're going to call that an hour. So 60 heartbeats is a minute and 60 minutes is an hour. It takes 24 of those hours to make a day. If you count out your heartbeats and you time how long it takes for the sun to reach the other peak, you have a brief concept of time. But the day is divided into two parts for obvious reasons, day and night. "Why?" Jorel asked. "What do you mean, why?" Jimmy said. I thought he'd sounded quite officious and thought his explanation made sense. Sure, there were a lot of holes in his explanation, but what better way to count your time if you don't have a watch? That's the point in knowing which part of the day. What's the point in knowing which part of the day it is? You wake up in the morning when the sun comes up and you're hungry. I don't have to tell you what part of the day it is. It's sunup. I know. I go to sleep when it's so dark you can't even see anything but sleep. Your sister seemed to have come up with an idea, Wit laughed. "Very funny. I'll bet you think you're a real wit." He turned and looked at Jimmy. "Out here, you eat when you're hungry. If you're a farmer, you wake up and tend to whatever it is you have to do. You feed the animals you have, you see to the crops. You don't need to know anything else. You have to know when it's the right time to hunt," Wit laughed, leaning on the long single oar used for steering the raft. "The current's pretty good out here," Ricky said, looking at Wit nervously. "Where does this river take us?" I asked. "Down into the valley," Ricky said. "Into the valley," Wit said, looking at the riverbank, which seemed distant. He looked back as I slipped on the fur-lined jacket and stripped my bra off. It felt good taking it off. I'd been wearing it for God only knows how long. I don't wear bras as often as I probably should, but I definitely wear one to work. The last thing I want is the guys all staring at my tits because it's cold and my nipples are standing at attention like they were right now. I looked out at the water, saw large rocks in the river dropping in around them. The rocks, the water was moving faster. There were small eddies and whirlpools that broke and splintered against the rocks, and the rocks were starting to get bigger. I could see rainbows in the mist and spray as the water splashed up around us. "I have a bad feeling about this," Jorel said. He was holding a spear, looking at the water and trying to push the raft away from the bigger rocks. "You always have a bad feeling about things," Wit said. "No, we don't know this river. We don't even know where we are," he added. "You're the one with all the charts," Wit said. "Look it up." "What charts?" I asked. "Ancient texts," Jorel said. "Can I see one?" Jorel reached into the pouch he was wearing slung over his shoulder. He searched through the pages and pulled one out. I could see the northern hemisphere and the stars. The page had been marked with ink. Some of it was faded because it was probably written a long time ago. I looked at the printing on the page. It was worn out and rubbed raw along the creases, and some of the more flimsy pieces had been torn. But I saw what I wanted and sat back to think. 1972. Rand McNally, I said, handing the star chart back to him. Do you know him? Jarrell said. My father told me he was a great map maker. He painted the entire night sky. He even named the stars, but nobody can read them anymore. What else do you have in there? Land maps, but they make little sense. Why not? Most of the land isn't there anymore. I haven't been to the places it says are gone, but others have, and they've marked it down. The entire west coast had been marked as gone. Instead, there was the great inland sea sitting where the Great Plains used to be. The sea looked like it started somewhere in the Dakotas. I had a hard time imagining what I was looking for. From Canada to Mexico, everything had changed. The Rocky Mountains were gone. I don't know if they fell to the bottom of the Pacific or if they were swallowed up by the earth. They were simply gone. In their place was what some later cartographers had named the Vandals. The Great Lakes had been redrawn, as had Hudson Bay. The rivers of my childhood had changed course. The Ohio River disappeared into the great inland sea as well as the Mississippi. Where the Mississippi had once meandered through the wetlands of Minnesota's thousands of lakes, now it was simply gone. Every city that had used the city for commerce had disappeared under massive miles of water. What is this place? I asked, seeing something in the water that had no right being there. I don't know what it was. I just know that whatever it wasn't from around here. Alligators weren't supposed to be this far north, were they? And as near as I could see, we were somewhere in Colorado, or what was left of it. All right. Chapter 22. The current picked up as the gorge narrowed. Huge rocks lined the way, the water crashing against them and sending up plumes of vapor like smoke. The walls of the canyon rose up all around us as the river made its hurried descent, the current picking up and buffeting us up against the rocks. I climbed off the floor of the raft and sat on one of the pontoons, wrapping my right hand through the rope holding the tent in place. Get us over to the shore, Ricky said, sounding anxious. The current's too strong. I can't control it, Whit said. There's a waterfall up ahead, Ricky said, and jumped up to push on the steering oar. How do you know? I asked him above the river's roar. We've been here before, Jimmy said, shouting above the rush of the water. I've been here with you before, Ricky added, looking at Whit. I've never been here before, and I certainly don't know if I was with you. And I'd certainly know if I was here with you. I'll explain once we get to shore, Ricky said. You don't need to, Jen said. Not if we don't get to the shore. Jarrell jumped up to help, and the three of them pressed all their weight against the oar. The raft refused to budge. Instead, it caught on an undertow, which sucked the back end of the raft below the waterline. The sudden dip made the front end of the raft rise up out of the water. I jumped down, thinking I could bail the water out with my hands. I could feel the rocks underneath us as we slipped over them. Jolene handed me one of the large cooking pots, and together the two of us were able to get most of the water out and under control. That's when we heard the crack, and both of us looked up to see Whit and Ricky hanging on the broken oar, which had tangled itself in a group of submerged rocks and snapped in half. Jarrell lost his balance and fell into the frigid water. His body swept away with the current and battered against the rocks. Whit ran to the front of the boat, reaching for him, but it was too late, and Jolene screamed as her brother was swept away, heading for the waterfall. I stood on the small platform where the steering oar had been. I could hear the distant roar of the water. There was a cloud of mist where the river dropped off, and I didn't know if it was the waterfall Ricky mentioned earlier or more rapids. Neither prospect was very promising. Going down the river without the oar was bad enough, but going over a waterfall seemed worse. I jumped off the platform and ran to the pontoon just as a large wave crashed over the raft. I reached out for Jolene and wrapped a section of rope around her wrist. Jarrell, she cried out. He's gone, and you will be too if you don't hold on. We don't need you falling out as well, I said, and she nodded, looking back at Whit. Tie yourselves to something, I said. I remember what happened last time I was here, Jimmy said. You weren't with us the last time, Jen said. Exactly my point. He raised his hand and pointed it at the air in front of him. In that moment, there were sparks and then bright light as a small tear in the fabric of the air in front of us grew. Jimmy stood up and started to walk toward it. Jen jumped up with him. At first, I thought she was trying to stop him. I was wrong. She stepped out over the end of the pontoon and fell into the hole in the air. The hole closed tight, and we were left looking at each other, wondering what had just happened. He left, I screamed at Ricky. They both left. What the fuck was that? What are we supposed to do now? Hang on, Ricky said, and I could see, rather than feel, the front end of the raft going over the waterfall. I could also feel myself falling and then being pulled by the rope I'd tied myself to. I hit the water and felt myself being pulled back by the rope. The raft flipped over top of me and I came up underneath it, the sound of the waterfall hitting the bottom of the raft, sounding like thunder. I could feel the weight of the water pushing the raft under and catching the back end and pushing me out into the middle of a shallow stream where I was able to find some footing and walk the upside down raft away from the waterfall. I don't know who'd survived the trip over the fall and stood up, trying to push the raft over. It was too heavy, so I gave up and crawled out from underneath it. I could hear Ricky on the farther shore calling me and turned to see him standing about 10 feet above me on a small knot of large rocks. Did you see anyone else? I asked. I saw Jarrell floating out from under the waterfall. I'm pretty sure it's safe to say he didn't make it. What about the other two? I don't know. I'm pretty sure they made it. I saw them making their way to the shore. Where did your brother and Red Sonya go? I asked, and for some strange reason looked down at the bracelet on my wrist. It was gone. I lost it, I said. What? The bracelet. She's going to be pissed when she finds out I don't have it. Must have lost it going over the falls. We lost a lot more than that, Ricky said, nodding at the raft. What do you mean? That thing was full of supplies. There can't be too much in it. Great. There go my clothes, I said. Your clothes, he laughed. We just lost everything we need to survive out here, and your one concern is your clothes? Okay, maybe my priorities are a little fucked up right now, but that doesn't make me a bad person, I said. I didn't sign up for this, whatever this is. Well, at least you still have your gun, I said. A lot of good that's going to do with no ammo, I said. How many bullets do you have left? Maybe 8, I said. I took the gun out of my holster and ejected the clip. I counted the bullets and told him 7, he echoed. Hey, it's 7 more than the bad guys have, I said. And speaking of the bad guys, who were those guys attacking us? They looked like something out of Conan. I don't know too much about them except that Wit calls them slavers, which I guess pretty well explains what they are. Slavers. What the hell is this place? I said, grabbing a length of rope and pulling the raft behind me. I walked towards him. He climbed down off the rocks and jumped down into the knee-high water. Did you know she was pregnant? I said. I mean, you seem to know more about them than they know about you. He shook his head, reached out for the rope, and began pulling the raft towards the shore. I got out of the water as quick as I could. I had to sit down and take my shoes off so I could drain the water out. I wanted to take off the fur jacket Jaylene gave me, thinking maybe I could wring it out. But I wasn't prepared to walk around bare-chested at the moment. A dark shadow crossed over me, and I looked up, a hand already on my Glock. Did we lose everything? Wid asked. Where's Jarrell? I lost him when the raft flipped, I said. Where did you end up? The current caught me. We both ended up around the bend. We were lucky. There's more rapids down there. Well, maybe he'll show up, I said, feeling uneasy even as I said it. He'd better, Jaylene said. When's the baby coming? I said, not knowing what else to say. All I knew was that I didn't want to be here when it came. I didn't fancy playing midwife. I was there when my sister was born. I was just a kid then, and seeing it put me off ever wanting to have kids of my own. It wasn't the beautiful scene people always say say it is when they describe having given birth to their children. My poor mother swore and grunted and cried out in pain and frustration. She even shit herself. She was pushing so hard. And I thought to myself, when I get older, how they don't tell you those things in high school. Having babies is not for me, I thought. You should bring that out, she said to me as she walked past. Wit soon had a fire going, and I squatted down beside it, trying to keep warm. Wit was standing on the riverbank, looking at the tumbling water. There was a pack jammed into the rocks, away from the water, which meant it wasn't wet, which was a good thing, I thought. I thought the only way he'd be able to reach it would be to climb down from above. I wondered if he had enough rope. You don't want to be climbing those rocks without lashing yourself to something, I said. He turned to look at me. I can see what you're looking at. Those rocks are going to be wet and slimy. Slug slimy, my daddy used to call it. You have to get to it from above. Do you have enough rope? I have what I used for the tents. And how much is that? 6 lengths. How long is the length? 10 paces. I nodded. That would be more than enough. I looked up at the trees lining the riverside. He could tie the one at up top, the other around himself, and then climb down and retrieve the pack. Do you know which one it is? I asked. Wasn't there 2 of them? We all climbed up to the side of the hill. It was hard, painstaking. I could feel the muscles in my legs burning. Whit and Jaylene had little trouble with the climb, while Ricky was wheezing before we reached the halfway point. When we finally reached the top, Whit and Jaylene were sitting on 2 large boulders, waiting. Whit was making a loop on one end of the rope and quickly wrapping it around himself. He'd already decided where he was going to secure the rope before climbing down the face of the waterfall. He'd made his way to the edge of the cliff face and peered over. He slipped once or twice on his way there, and Jeline called out to him, her hands going to her mouth, her body rigid. He let out as much of the line as he could, letting it spill around his feet as he got down on his knees and looked over the edge again. There's more than just the one pack, he said. One of the tents is there, too. What else can you see? Jeline asked. That's about it. The tent's not in good shape. It's only the house. There are no leads or poles. It isn't much of a tent. Do you still want it? Yes, Jeline said. She looked at me and shook her head. I don't understand how he'd think we can't use it. He can make poles. We're in a forest. Wit somehow managed to get everything up with one trip. The pack was heavy. It was wet and loaded with old pots and pans that should have been tossed out years ago. I thought I would have rather had the pack with the bedding until Jeline made her famous rabbit stew. As Wit made his final climb up the cliff face, we heard him cry out. The rope went tight. We ran to the edge of the cliff and saw him. He'd fallen 10 feet, if not more, and was hanging, trying to regain his footing. Ricky pulled the rope up, straining with the effort as Wit somehow managed to get a foothold and climbed the rest of the way. His left forearm was bleeding from 2 puncture wounds. What happened? I said, helping him up the last 3 feet. He fell into the water, rolling over onto his back, holding his arm. He was squeezing it above the wound. Snake, he said. There you go. That is the end of that. Yeah. So he gets bit by a snake. But, as you recall, when they left in the last one, remember, Jimmy had his little laser gun, and as everybody went through the hole in time, as you know, the hole in time, as we call it, he shot Wit. So Wit died before they went through into the past or the future or whatever, where the future Wit was, and now Wit gets bit by a snake. So we're kind of wondering how this all works out. Well, some of you are. Some of you are going like, this makes no sense. Well, that was the whole idea. It's not supposed to make sense. You're supposed to be confused the way Helen was confused, not knowing what the fuck is going on. And she swears a lot. I like that. Because, it's way easier to explain things with a simple what the fuck, WTF, right? So, yeah, we're all a little confused. What's his name? The brother. the hell? I forgot his name already. Jalen. Jalen and Jaylene. Yeah, I guess they must be twins. Who knows, right? Well, he went over because, well, he's, he was, he had died in the attack in the first part. So now he's, here, and he didn't die when he was supposed to die. So he went over the falls without the boat. And so he died there because he drowned. So, because he was supposed to die, wasn't he? That's just the way it goes. So we're, you're in one timeline, and then, you're dead in that timeline, and then you're in the next timeline, and I guess you're dead in that one too. That's just the way it is. But we'll figure it out, sort of, maybe. So let me see. That was chapter 22 and 23. I got going back to the big book here, the notebook. I have, where the heck is it? There we go. 22, 23, 23, 24 next week, 25, 26. I think there's only 31 or 32. So 2 more readings of this, and then we try the experiment, which is breakfast with my brother. I don't know if that's going to work. We shall see. I'm hoping it works. It's a hard one because, well, it'll be a live chat using my little phone. It's not that it's a phone, you see. It's not a phone. It has everything except a phone, which means it's just a glorified transmitter. It will be used for the live chat. I have to get a new, what do you call, because it broke. It broke. Yeah, so I have to get a new, this was a selfie stick. This is a tripod. That's the word I'm looking for. Tripod, right? And this is a selfie stick from way back when that had never been used. The daughter gave it to us for a present, thinking like maybe it was something we would use. We never used it. So I attached it to this, and I put my phone on it, but this broke. And so then I just threw the part out, and I have to go to, I guess, London Drugs and see if I can find a selfie stick. Or maybe they have in my Staples. I doubt it, but whatever. I need to find something to attach my phone to. I attach this. I can take it to London Drugs. They have a computer department, and they will help me. Then I can hook it to this. Then we can take the microphone and plug that into the phone. No, that ain't gonna work. I don't know what to do. Well, I'll figure it all out, sort of, and then we'll do the breakfast with my brother, and we'll see how that goes. Alrighty. So in the meantime, and in between time, so the reading is done for the day. Then now I have to go and finish writing for the revolutionary, his wife and her lover, and that's at I had my 17th section. And let me see, how many words is it? That's not it. Wait, that's not it. Over here, the revolutionary. There we go. It is 38,000 words. So I'm hoping I can get that in under. I'm thinking, 38, and I was hoping for 40. I think I'm gonna pass that. It might end up 42-ish. But it's like, I have a twist. Well, it has not really a twist. It's, I trying to, what is that? She's pregnant. The girl is pregnant in the story. She starts out pregnant. The whole story takes place during her pregnancy. And so then, she's going to be giving birth. And, it all has to do in November. And so then I decided I was going to have her birth on my brother's birthday, so I wouldn't forget, right? Because what do you call it? The Munich Push Beer Hall Pushed was November the 23rd. So this is like 4 days. So everything has to tie up in those 4 days. And we'll see how that goes. I mean, I'm not that I want to make any spoilers, right? I mean, spoiler. I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to screw it up and tell you too much. But things are coming to a head, and I'm going to end it as quickly as I can. And after that, I have another story that I wrote years and years ago that I'm going to kind of work on, and it's a little longer than a novella. I think it's 60,000 words. I can't remember offhand. And but that's a hard one. I'm supposed to put trigger warnings on shit. Remember, I keep forgetting I have to put trigger warnings because being old, we didn't do that kind of stuff when we were younger. Like something hurt your feelings. That's what we called it, right? Hurt your feelings. Sorry, we hurt your fifis. Yeah, it's like we didn't think of trauma and that kind of stuff. I mean, like, had that been the case, my father would have been diagnosed, wouldn't he? Definitely. If anybody needed to be diagnosed with PTSD, it would have been him, wouldn't it? But that's what happens when you live through a war, I guess. And yeah, so we'll we'll just yeah, I've lost my train of thought already. Yeah. Yeah. So I've got this story. I found my train. And the story is called Tarot Cards and Tea Leaves. And part of it is based on the neighbor that lived across the street who was a psychic. He could read palms and look at crystal balls and tell you the future just by, that's the way it was. I had that in my entire life. Like, I had all of that stuff. My sister was one. My sister-in-law was one. My brother was one. Not the brother with breakfast. My oldest brother. And yeah, in fact, he would sit down with a pen in his hand and then all of a sudden get into automatic writing. Like, weird. My sister was doing the automatic writing. That was cool because I just got to take part in that and look at it, ask questions even. And my brother, no, he didn't share that. He just wrote this thing, and then he had notebooks full of notes that he would write in that strange script that he never showed anybody. And he burned, I think, or just like threw out or whatever. It's like, dude, why? But whatever. Because he didn't like it, because he had no control. He couldn't control it. He would pick up a pen when he was at the bank and he was trying to sign his check, and he'd pick up the pen and all of a sudden it would his handwriting would change. Strange. Things going on in the Circle K, Ted. Yeah. So, that was weird. But hey, as a result, like, I'm not the least bit, what do you call it? Upset when people talk about psychic things, and I totally understand everything about the psychic thing, and I believe in life after life. That when you die, you go up into a different a sphere of influence, if you want to call it that. Yeah, I believe in all of that stuff because it's the way I was raised. Simple as that. Yeah, strange. That's what I mean. Psychic thing is such a strange. I mean, when I cut my fingertips off, right? Like my fingertips, when I cut them off straight across like that, well, you can see from like that, straight across like that. Um, I was my dad had an accident at work and had a big cut on his hand or whatever like that, and he needed antibiotics, and he didn't get a chance to pick them up yet, so I gave him mine because he told me because I said we were going out for the night drinking, and he said, "Well, like there's no point taking antibiotics because the antibiotics don't work when you're drinking alcohol." And I went, "Oh, well, here, you take them because you look like you need them more than I do. I'll just use the alcohol." Well, I was like, being rather flippant, but yeah, I was in a lot of pain. So we were sitting in the club, and my hand was like bandaged up like this, and I was like I had to keep it over above my heart so that the blood wasn't pumping into it, and big huge bandages all around it and stuff, and uh and it hurt a lot. And so then we were sitting in the club, and then all of a sudden it didn't hurt. And I looked, and then I looked at my sister-in-law, and she was sitting there, and she was just going like that, and her fingers were red, like red, and and they were hot. I mean, she touched my hand. She just like touched my hand, and I could feel it, and her fingers were hot. She had taken the pain from my hand and had taken it on herself and was like channeling it and all that stuff. Really weird, but I can say for a fact, like I had no pain for the whole night. I was able to dance. Like, go figure that out. Like, no. But yeah, I did. I was able to drink. That helped. Yeah. So yeah, I the psychic shit. So tarot cards and tea leaves is kind of based on that kind of thing. As the woman that lives across the street in the story reads tea leaves and tarot cards and has a crystal ball and is able to do things and stuff like that. And so it's not so much a coming of age story. I guess you could call it a coming of age story, but it has to do with the two people across the street who are both concentration camp survivors from the war. And both speak the only language they have in common is English, and they speak that rather haltingly. The one is a composer and a orchestra musical teacher or whatever at the university. So yeah, and the other one is his wife who sits at home, and they have a goat, and the goat's name is Dinner. Yeah, well, whatever. What's the goat name? Dinner. And one day the goat is Dinner. But hey, that's still part of the story. And the story is about this young girl who is a victim of abuse and takes things into her own hands and resolves it in her own way. But yeah, it's a long story, and it has themes of childhood. I guess you call it that, right? Childhood rape. Guess you would call it that. Like, what else can you call it? And violence. And well, hey, I wrote it like I don't know, 15 years ago. I was still working. I remember that. And I gave it to this guy at work to read, and he went, "Wow, man, that's quite the opening line." Because it was a good opening line. I liked it. You know, at 15, I killed a man. That's a great opening line. And he went, "Whoa, that had me hooked." So there you go. Spoiler. Opening line of the new story is like, at 15 years old, I killed a man. Well, there you go. Well, it's just the first line. That's a hook, right? That's a hook. Anyways, that will be out. I don't know. How am I going to read that? Well, I can't, can I? No, that's not for reading. That's going to be in the Stories After 8. That's what it is. Okay. And I don't know how long that's going to take, but that will be 2,000 words basically every. So yeah, it's going to be at least 30, isn't it? At least that. Well, we'll see. 30 little blurbs. So 30 weeks. Like, holy smokes. Which gives me time to do other stuff, get everything all set up and sorted out. I'll be reading for my apocryphy. Yeah, I got like a lot of stuff going on. Lots of stuff. But it's all going behind a paywall because, like, whatever, right? You get to read Stories After 8 for free. Everything else goes up behind a paywall. This will be going up behind the paywall as well. because, that's just the way it's well, I mean, I'll do the live chat for free, but the tape part, after it comes up, that goes up behind the paywall, 'cause, paywall is, not working anyway. Nobody wants to buy into it, so whatever. I'm not taking it down. That's all I've decided that, I'm not taking it down. I'll try and make my money through my, stories that, I'm publishing, the, trilogy, and, that's my series, and the, what do you call it? The Shield of Locksley. So, yeah, you want to read The Shield of Locksley, that's on Amazon Books, and that's, 7.99 or 11.35 Canadian. And, the other one is, Gimme Books. Oh, sorry. Ooh, sorry. Ooh, I had to yawn. Gimme Books, and that is, what is it? And, oh, that's also 7.99 because that's 3 stories. Oh, well, we'll see how that all works out. Nobody's buying that either, so whatever. It is what it is. Anyways, I'm going to say adieu to all 7 of you. I say thank you for coming, and there's no names down here, and I don't know how that works. I can't figure it out. Like, no, it's not the people, and no, it's not the chat. No, I can't figure it out. Anyways, I have 7 people, including me, which makes 8, and now I'm going to say for after breakfast with my brother and for the novella zone. And this is your host, Ben Woestenburg, coming to you from the left coast in beautiful British Columbia, Vancouver. It's a beautiful sunny day, and I'm going to miss it. Oh, no, wait, I have to go to the store. And I'm going to say ciao for now and have a good time. Enjoy your day. Watch the soccer game. I'm taping it because the wife and I are going to watch it when she comes home from work. So, because she likes to scream. Whatever. So, ciao for now. And I will see you next week at the same bat time and the same bat channel.